Hello, Lindsay. How are you?
Hi, Aubrey. I'm doing fantastic. How are you? How are you feeling today?
Excellent. I am great. I'm wondering what is something you have not done lately that you would like to do?
Well, actually, we haven't gone to the mountains in a while. Normally, we go a lot, but in the last month or so, we haven't been up there. So I'm hoping to go up there this weekend. Up
Oh,
to the
I hope you get up
mountains.
there. The weather, I
Yeah.
bet, is beautiful in the mountains in Colorado right
Oh my
now.
gosh. Yes, the fall and the mountains, all the aspens are changing color, becoming bright gold,
So
yellow,
dreamy.
golden. It's amazing. What about you, Aubrey? What's something you
Nice.
have not done lately that you would like to do?
I have not been able to take a nap in some time. I would like one free afternoon to take a nap. Even I can't really
Oh.
nap though. I'll try sometimes and it just doesn't happen.
I'm the same way. I remember how easy it was to nap in college. Did you
Yes,
used to
right?
nap in college? Everyone napped in college. It was like a college kid thing to do,
Yeah.
right?
Well, because we'd stay up till 3 a.m. So then we
Yeah.
kind of had to nap.
Right, exactly. But it was just so easy to fall asleep for hours at a time. And for some reason, I feel the same way as an adult. I really can't
Yeah,
unless I've
same.
just been up all night. Yeah.
Right. Well, I
Yeah.
asked Lindsay this question. I wanted to use this, what have you not done lately?
Hmm.
Not to negate things in English can be a little tricky. We got a really good question about this. Where do you place the not? Sometimes it's a little tricky. And Lindsay and I were mentioning sometimes we're not even sure we're doing it correctly, right? Sometimes
Right.
you'll say something and realize it sounds a little awkward and you're not sure
Sure.
why.
Hmm. Yes, 100%. And this episode is inspired by a question from Mauro. Should I go ahead and read Mauro's question?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Mauro says, how are you? First, magnificent episode 2286 on the Bickersons. I
Nice.
have a
I love
question.
that. My dad calling us the Bickersons. I hope you
Yeah.
guys caught that episode. If not, scroll up the difference between squabble and bicker.
Yeah, that was a cute story. I like that your
Mhm.
dad made up that name for your family
Yes,
of your siblings and stuff
right.
because you were always bickering.
Yep.
Um, do I say you need to listen to Allers English in order not to miss great English tips, or you need to listen to Allers English in order to not miss great English tips? Thank you, Mauro. So it's a great question.
Yes, a really good question. I can imagine as you're learning English, you might hear both or you hear it one way, you're not sure why. So this is a perfect question for us to dive into, not when we're negating something like this, why it needs to be, because one or the other is correct here, or at least sounds more correct. What do you think, Lindsay? Which sounds right to you?
Oh my gosh, which sounds right? I don't know. In order not to miss, you need to listen to in order to not miss. I think the
This
second one
this
sounds
is
better to
what's
me.
so tricky is then it's like, okay, let me actually think about it. It sounds natural when we're having a conversation, but in one sentence in isolation, sometimes it's sort of hard to figure it out, right? So
Yes,
we're
it's
going to
true.
dive into, we have a great tip for you guys to know which to use. There are actually two grammar issues at play here.
Yes, I can't wait to get into these tips so we'll finally know the answer to that. But first, hit the follow button right here in All Ears English. Mauro loves the show, and we have a feeling you guys love this show. We want to bring you English where we focus on human connection. It's a new approach to learning English where we're not memorizing, we're not making ourselves miserable. We're finding the connection moment in everything we teach here with you guys. So hit the follow button on the show so you don't miss a single episode.
Yes, awesome. So the first really good news is neither is really wrong, right? You're not making a grammar error. Just one might be sound less awkward to people. And there's two reasons. We're going to dive into the first one. It's all about subordinating conjunctions.
Oh,
And
that's a big
sometimes
term.
these are multiple words, like for
Yes.
example, in order to.
Yeah, that's a big, scary term, but actually, it's going to give us a sense of relief because both are correct in that case for Mauro, right?
Exactly, right? But the tricky thing here is that subordinating conjunction that has multiple words, we keep these together as a chunk. So
Hmm.
usually you'll keep in order to, and
Hmm.
so then the correct, or at least what's going to sound right to most native speakers, is that you need to listen to Others English in order to not miss great English tips because we're keeping that chunk together. Now, just like you said, Lindsay,
Okay.
fluent does not really sound incorrect. You can also say, in order not to miss great English tips, there's no grammar teacher somewhere who's going to be super upset with you. It's not that you're breaking a rule. It's about what people are used to hearing, what sounds correct. And because we hear in order to together as a chunk, it usually will sound more correct to keep that together in order
Keep that
to not miss great tips.
Okay. Okay. Let's give some other examples, right? Did we have another example with in order to as this
Yes, exactly.
subordinating
So we
conjunction? Yeah.
in order to with an infinitive form of a verb to express
Mhm.
the purpose of something. So you could say, in order to finish in time, we need to meet this week, right? And
Mhm.
you would not usually hear, in order to not finish late, we need to meet this week,
Okay.
right? Well, that is the correct example with not, but it's interesting with in order to. Often we will
In order
try to
not to.
say
We
the
wouldn't
sentence in
we
the
wouldn't say
positive.
we wouldn't say in order not to, right? Is what you're saying, Aubrey?
Exactly, right. We
Yes.
wouldn't split
Mhm.
it and say, in order not to finish late.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, you can say both, but it's just we're so used to hearing this chunk together, right? So we keep it
Exactly.
together, we keep it in integrity, and we put that not after at the end.
Exactly, right, but is it a grammar mistake? No, you can do both. Neither of them sound super weird or awkward, so don't stress about it. But if you're wanting like, okay, which should I do? What's the rule? What's the tip? Keep these chunks together. Any subordinating conjunction that has more than one word. There are other examples, right, besides in order to, as long as, whether or not, even though. There are a lot of subordinating conjunctions that are more than one word, and you're going to want to keep those together as a chunk as a
Mhm.
general rule.
Yeah, that's good to know. And that should be, easy enough to remember that we learn the chunk and we know not to split it, right? We keep it
Right.
together. Keep it as a
Yeah.
little
And it's
family. Mhm.
not just about not, right? We also will have adverbs maybe, and we can keep this chunk together if we're saying, for example, we already made plans in order to get everything scheduled early. If we put already in the middle of that chunk, it will sound a little strange, right? We made plans in order already to get everything
Oh,
scheduled, right?
no.
We want to keep in order to together.
Yeah, that doesn't sound right at
No,
all.
right? We're
That
used to
sounds way
hearing
worse.
not in there a little
Yes.
bit, but anything else is like, nope, keep in
No,
order
no,
to
no.
together.
Yes, keep it together. I like it. All right. So that is the first tip for today, subordinating conjunctions where we keep the words as a little chunk. Now, we have the option in other cases to split infinitives. Tell us about this, Aubrey.
Yeah. So the other question here, when I usually hear this question from students about like, where should I put not? It's usually
Mhm.
about splitting infinitives. And
Mm.
this is absolutely fine. It is grammatically correct. You will, as a preference, you might hear a teacher, you might see online, don't split infinitives. We do it all the time. It's not a grammar mistake.
Mhm. Okay, good. So, where do we go from here? Do we have any examples that we want to share?
Yeah. So, just to talk about splitting infinitives a bit, the normal form of a negative infinitive is not to and then the verb for
Okay.
everything, right? So, for
Mhm.
example, try not to miss any episodes of the podcast. And this is,
Yes.
we're removing in order to, but really saying the same thing. So, we have
Mhm.
try not to, and then the verb is miss. Try not to miss any episodes.
Okay.
But
The no
the
Uh-huh.
other form, to
Uh-huh.
not blank, right, where we're splitting the infinitive with the word not, is still grammatical, right?
Yes, but it's used in order to convey a special meaning or to emphasize something. This is interesting, Aubrey. What do we mean by this?
Right. It's very subtle. But if we listen to these two different examples, when we split the infinitive, we usually are doing it to emphasize. So, for example, I said, try not to miss any episodes of the podcast. Like, oh, this is not that big of a deal. Just try not to do it. And then if I split the infinitive and I say, try to not miss any episodes of the podcast, there is
Mhm.
emphasis here. Like, this is important. Do you hear the
Yeah.
difference, Lindsay?
I can hear a little bit of a
It's
difference. I
subtle.
think it depends on what you're saying, but certainly it's quite subtle. But I feel like you are drawing more attention to what you're saying here to me.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
In this case, it implies more effort. It's sort of, yeah, because the sort of natural way to do it is to not split the infinitive. When you do, it's usually for an intent, like you are
Mhm.
drawing a little more attention to the message.
Interesting. All right. Okay, Aubrey, let's go through and see how this all shakes out in a role play, shall we?
Let's do it. You and I are at a state fair in this role play. Do you ever go to the state
Oh.
fair, Lindsay?
Yeah, I used to as a kid. I used to go a lot to the county fair in New
Mhm.
Hampshire and things like that.
Same. I
Yeah.
haven't been to one in a while.
Yeah, it's been a while for me too, but they're fun. They honestly are fun.
It
Get
is
some
fun.
funnel cakes and walk around, see the horse shows. It's fun. Ride the
I know, I feel like
rides.
you and I both need to get to the state fair to, like, relive those old childhood memories.
That's something I wish I have would
There you go, that's
do.
what we should
Yeah,
have
I
asked.
need
What
to
have you
do.
not done in a while that you wanna go to the state
Yes.
fair?
All right, here's the role play. I want to try all of these rides.
I actually need to avoid the zipper if I want to not get sick.
No worries. I'll try not to be too sad about missing that one.
I have to leave at 9. In order to not run out of time, we should jump in one of these lines right away.
Sounds good. All right. Yes. When you go to an amusement park, everyone has their hard line, right?
Exactly. I do have a few rides I have to avoid. I know they're going to make me sick to my stomach.
Yes, yes, for sure, for sure. So the first thing you said, Aubrey, I actually need to avoid the zipper if I want to not get sick. So tell us
Ah.
about this one. Where do we come back to from the
So I'm
lesson?
splitting the infinitive here. This is the last one we talked about.
Hmm.
And I'm saying want to not get sick. And it is just a little bit to emphasize here, right? Because there are a
Hmm.
lot of ways I could say this. I need to skip the zipper or I'll get sick, right? If
Yes,
I don't want to get sick, that's really
right,
the most common. If I don't want to get sick, I should not do that. So if I
right.
split the infinitive here, there's a little bit of emphasis if I want to not get sick.
Okay, so this is where we're emphasizing because we are splitting it,
Yep.
right? And I think you may not choose to say it in this way, like you said, Aubrey. You might say, "Oh, I might get sick," like you said. I might get sick. I
Oh,
tend to
there's
get
so many
sick.
ways to
I'll
say it.
probably get sick. Right.
Right? I don't wanna get sick, so I'm not gonna do that. Yeah, there are a
Yes.
lot of
Yes.
ways to say it, but you will hear the infinitive split this way. It's not a mistake, and it's so subtle, that little bit of emphasis that is added.
And then I said, "No worries. I'll try not to be too sad about missing that one." Seems like I'm being a little sarcastic or something, maybe.
Exactly,
I
like,
don't know, a little
oh,
attitude.
or maybe you really wanted to go on that one. Okay,
Yeah.
fine. And this is that first option, the sort of normal form for negative infinitive, not
Hmm.
to X. I'll try not to be sad. If you
Yeah.
wanted to emphasize or maybe be a little more funny or emphasize, you could say, I'll try to not be too sad. Either would
Mm.
work.
Okay, good. And then what did you say, Aubrey? The next one.
And the last one I said, I have to leave at 9. In order to not run out of time, we should jump in one of these lines. So this is where we're using that subordinating conjunction in
Hmm.
order to, and we keep it together as a chunk and have
Yes.
not after.
Nice. Remember, we keep those together because we just learn them as a chunk and we don't split them. Love it. Aubrey,
Yeah.
what's another episode our listeners might want to check out if they want to get on a grammar track? Get into
Yes.
grammar today. Yeah.
Right? We have a lot of fun grammar episodes here on the podcast. 2,300, just scroll up a few, was It's Time You Mastered This English Grammar. And we talked about the subjunctive mood, which can be really tricky in
Mm.
English.
Hmm. And where should we leave our listeners today? I mean, these negatives, they can be tricky, guys. And now we've given you a basic idea of when to use not, of when to use not and when to not split chunks. Okay.
Exactly, right? Sometimes these chunks need to be kept together, but
Hmm.
again, connection, not perfection. This isn't something to stress out about too much. Even
Right.
native speakers will do it both ways, and it's not going to sound like a glaring error.
I love it. So good. Guys, hit the follow button if you love All Ears English, and we will see you back here very soon. All right.
Awesome. See you next time.
Take care, Aubrey. Bye.
Bye.